And welcome to my first post-CES video of 2020. If you missed my CES 2020 coverage, definitely go check that out. But this video is totally unrelated. Today, we're going to be checking out Ryzen cooling performance. So, AMD Ryzen processors have a feature called XFR, or Extended Frequency Range, which can essentially tell the temperature that the processor is currently running at, and depending how much headroom it has, it can sort of auto-overclock itself or boost a little higher to get a bit more performance. So because of this, it's been sort of the common understanding that AMD Ryzen performance improves with better cooling. It scales with cooling. But today, I want to put that to the test. So, I have a Ryzen 9 3900X 12-core processor. That's my daily driver. Now, a 12-core processor should be able to generate enough heat while still being a new enough processor. It's the latest generation on desktop. So it can have the newest features, the most advanced XFR, while still producing enough heat to be able to tell the difference between the different coolers. So, I used two coolers for these tests. For the low end, I used the stock cooler that came in the box, an AMD Wraith Prism, I believe it's called. It's actually a pretty decent cooler, especially considering that it comes for free in the box as a stock cooler, but it could be better, of course. So on the high end, I have what is probably the most popular off-the-shelf AIO liquid cooler, the Corsair H100i Platinum. So, I ran a suite of benchmarks with both coolers, and I measured the temperatures using both coolers to kind of gauge the performance difference with the increased level of cooling. So, first, temperatures. I ran an IDA64 stress test to try to just pin those temperatures as high as they can go. Measured all the temperatures in the AMD Ryzen Master software, which is for some reason for me the only software that can report temperatures. I'm not too sure. But anyways, on the air cooler, the stock cooler, we got a 94.88 degrees Celsius, and on the Corsair AIO, we got 78.5 degrees. So that's a pretty substantial decrease in temperature. 16.38 degrees Celsius to be exact. So hopefully there should be lots of headroom for XFR here. Before we continue, one disclaimer. This is not a be-all, end-all comparison of air coolers versus liquid coolers. I know there are tons in both categories that are great and bad. I'm just showing two different examples of a less powerful cooler compared to a more powerful cooler. And as we just saw from these temperature numbers, we do have a difference in the cooling performance here. So, here's my prediction. Single-threaded applications will see no improvement at all. They'll just exist. They'll be within margin of error. For me, a 2% or less difference is margin of error. Once you cross 2%, then it starts to be an actual measurable difference. Single-threaded applications, which only use one or a small number of cores at a time, won't generate as much heat because there's less cores and less surface area from your dies being actually utilized. Now, multi-threaded applications, on the other hand, can use all of the available cores, in my case 12 of them, which can generate heat across all of the dies, and will thus produce more heat, resulting in higher temperatures. So a difference in cooling will have more of an impact there. So, first test, Cinebench. Single-threaded, we saw a 0.98% decrease. It's within margin of error, as I predicted. Single-threaded application, not going to do anything. The small decrease is likely just due to variations in runs, and nothing more. Now, on the multi-threaded side, however, we saw a 2.11% increase in performance, which is outside of our margin of error. I'd say that is an improvement, albeit a very small one. Now, for real-world applications, I chose 2 productivity tasks and 2 gaming tasks. So productivity, or content creation, or whatever you want to call it. So the first one was Blender, the classroom benchmark. I just rendered it, measured the time to render. So between the coolers, I saw a difference in render times of 3.69%, with the better cooling obviously resulting in the lower time. So that's a pretty good change. It's not earth-shattering, but considering it's the same hardware, just a different cooler, that's pretty good. Now, the next real-world content creation benchmark was Handbrake. I'm not using any Adobe software because I'm having issues with Adobe licensing, but that's neither here nor there. So in Handbrake, I emulated what I use that software for the most, transcoding ripped Blu-rays. So I ripped Talladega Nights Blu-ray into an MKV using Make MKV, and then converted that MKV into a 1080p, into the fast 1080p 30 preset in Handbrake to turn it into an MP4 file. This is something I do a lot so that I can put my movies on my Plex server. More on that in another video. But anyways, converting the movie from MKV format to an MP4 format, we saw a 3.41% decrease in the render times on the higher performance cooler. So overall, in these content creation tasks, we're seeing about a 3.5% increase in performance. I'd say that's pretty good, but it's still pretty small, and I'm going to talk more about that later. Now, to gaming tasks. The first one, 3D Mark Time Spy, which the graphics score saw a difference of 0.63%, which again, using the same GPU cooler, and with the nominal single core performance difference, 0.63%, it's nothing. It stayed the same. Now the CPU score, on the other hand, went up 7.98%, which is actually way more than I was expecting. And I ran it several times, and I did get pretty much the same result each time. But I'm still going to chalk it up to a fluke. I think it may just be the way this particular test runs. It's not indicative of real-world performance. The second gaming benchmark was the Neon Noir benchmark, which uses an open-source ray tracing API as opposed to NVIDIA's proprietary RTX API. And I saw a 1.04% decrease in performance on the liquid cooler. So again, it's a single-thread application. It's just a difference in run times. My best guess is that running things back-to-back got the more heat in the rest of the system, so the GPU suffered a teeny bit, which resulted in that 1% decrease. But that could be just total nonsense. I may have no idea what I'm talking about. So overall, I'd say a 3.5% increase in content creation or productivity tasks, and then no increase whatsoever in gaming or other single-threaded applications. Now, here's the thing though. Going from the stock AMD Wraith cooler to this Corsair AIO, it's about $100, $120 upgrade. For 3.5%, that's not that much. I personally wouldn't say that it's a worthwhile upgrade. Now, if you're doing a lot of rendering, a lot of encoding in, say, a production warehouse or something like that, where the difference of 10 seconds may add up to minutes or hours even, then maybe the upgrade would be worth it. But why is it so little? Shouldn't Ryzen be scaling with cooling? Well, if we look at it, it doesn't really that much. XFR can, in this current generation, only boosts to, I believe, 200 megahertz over the rated clocks. 200 megahertz is not all that much. It's about 5%-ish of the overall clock speed for 3900X. So when we consider other things that won't scale at all with cooling, such as memory and I/O performance, account that with the 5% increase in clock speeds, a 3.5% increase in performance makes sense. The numbers seem to check out. So yeah, again, I thought it was interesting to see this. We can see, yes, Ryzen does scale with cooling, but not as much as you may expect. It's not going to magically overclock itself. It's just a little bit extra when it can. Anyways, that's all for this video. If you have any thoughts, questions, anything at all, leave them in the comments down below. If you like this video, make sure you leave a like, and don't forget to subscribe for some more cool videos I have coming up, such as a look into Android 10's navigation system, and an update on this bad boy. That's it for this video. I will see you guys in the next one.